What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So an absolutely bizarre situation hit Nintendo over the weekend as a person showed up online claiming to have a retail version of the Switch 2, and apparently they have proof. Well, we'll see about that. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony and their next big game from Naughty Dog because it appears there's a little bit of backlash for this one, and well, it's Naughty Dog, so what else is new? And then we also have Capcom, who's kind of reaching back into the vault and working to revive some of their older IPs that have been left behind. And it looks like even after Konami and Onimusha, they're not done. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members of the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. We're going to start today with Nintendo and accessory makers just continue to throw out designs and even renders of the Switch 2, and I talked over the weekend about DBRAND. If you'd like to see a whole breakdown of that, you can check that out on the channel, but it appears along with DBRAND and their tweet, there's also another manufacturer that showed up. This one was kind of odd. You can see it was covered here by My Nintendo News, and I was looking through these screenshots, and I noticed on the front here, they seem to have X and Y mixed up, and this is what I've kind of mentioned a couple of times now. You're seeing renderings just based on dimensions that are sort of out there, and I think for the most part, you're seeing close enough renders and close enough like dimensions for the shells, and they can change and alter as usually there's fine print thrown in there, like with DBRAND, for example, or any of those grips that you've seen showed up so far. So I think we're still kind of waiting for Nintendo to reveal the thing fully, and then they can change and alter their designs. It's just everyone's sort of doing this now where they're throwing their renderings out there because, yeah, it gets in the press. It seems actually something that's pretty easy at this point for them to do to promote their products. So again, we'll see when Nintendo's ready to show this thing, but as I mentioned earlier, seems like someone may already have one. Also, we did have an interview with Eurogamer and Sega's president and COO, in which they actually talked about Sonic Superstars, and well, you could see this over on their website. Say it's a very good question. We were trying to do something creative with Sonic Frontiers. With Sonic Superstars, it turned out to be a disappointment in terms of the outcome compared to what we delivered. This time, we have Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, the next Sonic movie, so we're pushing things in the transmedia direction. Movies and games working in harmony to make things bigger, but the core of the experience is the game. The game needs to be very good, or else there is no transmedia effect. Yeah, I mean, technically, sure, but like you've also seen bad movies like Borderlands actually push the game and it sold more. But yet, if you have something like a Sonic 3 and then also Sonic Cross Shadow, those can work very, very well. Sonic Superstars came out right alongside of Mario Wonder, so it was on its back foot immediately. And on top of that, it was kind of priced, I think, a bit too high, and most people noted that in reviews, and then others that actually bought the thing, they were like, oh, that was not a very long Sonic experience for full price. So I think a lot of people also waited for that, but in their mind, maybe they could have been a bit more creative with Sonic Superstars. Sonic Frontiers was definitely out there and an interesting platform to build on, so that's actually something I'm really interested in. What will the next one look like? Because that is a genuinely creative direction for the Sonic franchise. Oh, and we do have a sign up currently for network test for Elden Ring Night Rain. This is over on Bandai Namco's website currently. I'll have this link down below in the sources if you wanted to just have this all set up and prepared, because they say here network test will be coming in February. Registration will start from January 10th. They have both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S listed here, so I guess in this case you may want to drop your email or whatever in there so they can hit you with a reminder when we're getting closer to it. They also revealed that Elden Ring has crossed the 28 million copy mark, so Elden Ring continues to power along. It makes sense why they're doing something like this, which, yes, is more Elden Ring, but kind of an interesting twist where they're going to lean more into the idea of co-op, where you can have 3 people total fighting against these big bosses in what it sounds like more of a roguelite experience. I have some questions around that, but I guess we'll see as we get closer to this network test how it all works out. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this bizarre situation currently surrounding Nintendo, and well, now there seems to be another countdown. Remember, Nintendo gave us one to the end of March to reveal the thing officially, and now someone has given the internet a countdown for them to apparently reveal the system that's in their possession. Again, strange stuff. This was over on Reddit. It was a post, and it went absolutely viral online as people were sharing screenshots of it. I saw millions and millions of impressions on different tweets over on Twitter X, and got to the point where I honestly had so many people messaging me about this because it is so weird, which we can see this, where they say, I've come from the future. I got my muggy hands on our final release Switch 2, and it's Doc. Ask me anything. I'll post proof on Christmas. Okay, so just under 10 days from now. And they edit said, stop private messaging me, asking me to send photos. So again, people were sending me this, and I was like, all right, fine. Somebody's on Reddit, I guess, who's gonna be, just pretend to be someone who got this thing, and they're gonna do this little LARP for a while. And no, actually, a mod said that they had proof. Like, it actually shocked them that they were able to at least some way prove that they had this system. And then from there, we can see they said that this leaker was able to confirm that they are, at least to some extent, telling the truth about having information that hasn't leaked yet, or they are a really good hoaxer. They did not want to share the evidence because it could reveal their identity to people around them. Also, I think they're actually from the future. There's a weird... Okay, so the thing that's very odd about this, right? One, they have this weird timeline of Christmas to share. Maybe in their mind, well, no one's gonna be at the office at Nintendo for Christmas, so that they can share it, and I guess they'll have at least some time to, I don't know, flee the country or something. Who knows? Because look, if this, let's just say this is a thing, Nintendo is certainly paying attention. We've talked about how Nintendo will go into Discord rooms and they'll search people, their names on Reddit, and then cross-reference with their repair logs, see if they have their address. Nintendo doesn't mess around. And if there's a Switch 2 floating around out there, they'll work to find out. I remember with the first Switch, someone actually got one early. If you remember, it was weird. It was like a shipment error or something, and Nintendo managed to retrieve it. Again, it's not like it's impossible. It's just very, very odd and almost coincidental that now all of a sudden one finds its way out to somebody, and then they go to Reddit immediately and start posting about it anonymously. In fact, it's to the point, because they go through these comments and they've been answering stuff, that this post here decided to just go through and start summarizing everything. So there's a logo, I guess, that's on the back that has a giant 2 next to the original logo. They say that it is, they triple down that it's a final retail model, asking why they can't share proof until Christmas, which apparently if they reveal proof, it'll make it too obvious who they are, and they seem to be guessing like January for the reveal, that being ahead of Nintendo's investor meeting, which seems to be kind of a guess there. They do mention that the dock still has all the same USB ports. It's lower on the front, like it's shorter, technically the cover that's in the front of the system, and then it's more curved, so more of the Switch screen would be visible when you put it in the dock. That's actually interesting if that is the case, because then Nintendo can have things just up on the screen even while docked, so they could do like they do notifications or different updates that way. But again, they went through quite a bit here answering questions, but apparently they can't turn the system on, and again, it seems like there are a lot of red flags here. Go figure. Random person on Reddit showing up saying they have a system that hasn't even been announced yet from Nintendo, who tends to be one of the more secure companies, mostly because of their brute force in the courtroom. But still, they've said Christmas they'll share information. So at this point, I'd be highly skeptical of this, but keep an eye out, I guess, as we get to Christmas, just to see if they actually do. Can you imagine if they show up and they're like, yeah, here's pictures of the retail box. Also, I charged it. I'm going to turn it on now. And then they just disappear forever, and we're just looking at a Switch 2. Yeah, that'd be an odd day on the internet. But then the most likely scenario is we never hear from them again, or they reveal that it's been a hoax the whole time. Either way, whatever they provided to this mod over on Reddit was enough to make them recoil a bit and even leave the post up. So, hey, I guess we'll see in the next 9 days or so if they're telling the truth, or if they're just playing around with people online just to get their hopes up and eventually squash it with some, well, somewhat intricate hoax. Next up, let's talk about Capcom, because at the Game Awards, they did reveal, I think, 2 awesome announcements for games, which was Okami, that getting a full sequel, Hideki Kamiya coming back under the Clover Studio working with Capcom, and we also have a new Onimusha title. Awesome. But that starts to make you think about some of the older intellectual properties that they still have currently as dormant status. Now, it seems that Capcom is aware that there's some money to be made here. And in fact, this was something they posted to investors, where they said, in addition to regularly releasing major new titles each year, Capcom is focusing on reactivating dormant IPs that haven't had a new launch title recently. The company is working to further enhance corporate value by leveraging its rich library of content, which includes reviving past IPs like the 2 titles announced above, that being Okami and Onimusha, in order to continuously produce highly efficient, high-quality titles. Highly efficient is a big thing there because, as we've seen Capcom, them using RE Engine for as much as possible, it wouldn't shock me if Okami used that. I don't know about Onimusha, but like, it wouldn't shock me if it showed up again in a place we were not really expecting. So in this case, them going back and looking at some of their older intellectual properties, there are many, and I even had a poll later on for people to vote on, like Beautiful Joe. That would be interesting to see now, although that's like a 2D style game, and 2D games can, they still have this stigma attached to them where they're not worth, quote unquote, the full price. It has to be like this big blown out 3D game. Typically people even look for open world. Linear has become kind of a problem over the last decade plus, which I'm actually leaning more and more towards linear high quality experiences now more than ever. But I think a high-quality 2D Beautiful Joe game would be really cool to see. Obviously, something out of the Mega Man universe at this point, like Mega Man Legends. People forget that Mega Man 11 was quite a while ago. That was 6 years ago or something. So even the Mega Man franchise could use a new entry, sure, Mega Man X. But really, you can look across the board. Dino Crisis is a big one. It's just Capcom is certainly intellectual property rich to where they go, you know what? We want to make an RPG. Let's get Breath of Fire. That's what I mean. There's a lot of stuff they can pull from. And what's really cool is Capcom certainly figured things out with Monster Hunter World. They were in a bad spot there before that release. That release, I would say, not only righted the ship, but set them on course really nicely. And as they've been making more and more money, this is the correct thing to do. Work to build up other intellectual properties because, as SEGA has mentioned, there's transmedia potential to where you could have a movie or a series for one of these franchises that continues to propel it in terms of just awareness, and then in that case, just more money, more revenue, more people buying. So I like the idea of Capcom exploring their library, and I hope they have more surprises, because tell me you weren't surprised to see not only Onimusha, but an Okami sequel showing up in the same place. That was pretty cool. Next up, let's talk about Sony and Naughty Dog's new game, that being Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, which from here on I'm just gonna say Intergalactic. But it was revealed as like the one more thing at Jeff Keighley's The Game Awards, and it has been, I'll say mixed. That's putting it more optimistically, because this thing has been it's stirred up quite the conversation around it and has received a lot of backlash actually. Over on the trailer that was posted on PlayStation's account as well as Naughty Dog's account has received majority downvotes. I believe on the Naughty Dog account they had disabled comments. However, they did that previously with The Last of Us Part 2. So this is a situation with Naughty Dog. I think they've just become used to it. I mean, with The Last of Us Part 2, that was rough. Like, Intergalactic looks like child's play right now compared to what happened there. And I mean, we'll see at the main character here with Intergalactic how the 3-iron, how that swings. No, but in this case, it's pretty clear we have a teaser trailer for Intergalactic, so you can only go by what they're showing, which is at this point mostly the main character, and that's what a lot of people are gravitating towards in terms of the overall conversation. Whether it's the fact that it is a woman that's the main character, the fact that even like they're shaving their head, that was a big thing there. But even some of the comments were pretty funny. Like some were talking about remasters, like, oh, this trailer is a few days old now, we got to go back and remaster it. And for me, when I look at this, I like the vibe that they're going with here in terms of the tone. But as I'm then looking through more comments, it's like, oh yeah, this is like Concord. It's like, wow, that's kind of rough if you think about it, because Naughty Dog started developing this in 2020. In that time, from then to this reveal, Sony bought Firewalk, pushed Concord heavily, did the grand opening and the grand closing in a week or two. They could have rented out a Spirit Halloween. It would have lasted longer than Concord this year. So when that's out there, and that's the last sci-fi thing that's happened here for Sony, it's not exactly helping out Intergalactic. Now, I will say this is a single-player, high-quality, we assume, narrative-driven experience from Naughty Dog. You just watch that trailer. All the other stuff aside, the technical stuff is very impressive all the way around, right? With like the the in-engine visuals and the animations, everything there. It's like top-notch stuff. The ad product placement is another thing that came up. We had like, what, Adidas was in there, Porsche was in there. Do you count Sony? I mean, it's Sony, it's like, I don't know if I get, but like Porsche, that was obvious. And the fact that it does take place, Alternate Universe 1986 was the year I believe they threw around, where we had more advancements in terms of the intergalactic travel or space travel, that maybe they're looking at it as, hey, we can not only make money, recoup some of our investment by literally renting out space here, but it'll also make it seem more grounded. Like, okay, would Porsche create a spaceship in a timeline where we look more towards that versus cars? Yeah, probably. So it's right now it's still a teaser. I need to see gameplay. That's what would sell me on this whole thing. And based on the fact that they are focusing in on it, according to them, and this will be their most in-depth gameplay they've ever done, I'm interested. But even I looked at the trailer and I said, yeah, that's cool. It wasn't the really big, overly exciting moment that I was expecting when Naughty Dog showed up with their new sci-fi game. So I'm kind of just paying attention and see where things go after they show more than a couple of minutes, just to sort of set up the story of going to this planet and trying to somehow escape, despite no one doing that for like 600 years or so. But how long we're gonna have to wait for that? Probably a little while, considering this game is, I assume, minimum a 6-year development time. So 2026 would be, I think, the earliest this thing comes out. Wouldn't shock me if we don't see it till 2027. So could go till the end of 2025 before we even see it again. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about PlatinumGames, because they really have not come up much recently, until Hideki Kamiya showed up, his name showed up on stage working on Akami, the sequel, with Capcom and Clover Studio. Everyone kind of looked around and said, huh, he just left Platinum last year, and here he is popping up now with Capcom, a company that many people thought he would never really go back to. So what's going on at PlatinumGames? Well, this is something that people came across here now, which this is over on Reddit, as somebody mentioned on the PlatinumGames subreddit here, and it was posted 27 days ago. That's what I mean. People weren't necessarily paying attention to this as much until now, with Hideki Kamiya showing up on stage there. But they say that Kenji Saito, who did like Metal Gear Rising, for example, Tora did Astral Chain, Yamanaka's Anarchy Reigns, all changed their Twitter handles to remove the PlatinumGames references. Kenji Saito, in particular, used to have his location set as PlatinumGames, and that was also removed. So it really does seem like PlatinumGames is kind of seeing a bit of an exodus right now of talent, and it does make me wonder what's going to happen with PlatinumGames, because Hideki Kamiya recently in an interview even talked about one of the reasons that he left is because Project GG wasn't really turning out how he wanted it to, and he didn't even want to attach his name to it anymore. And that's still something I believe is being worked on at PlatinumGames, and I mean, I assume it's coming out. Again, we haven't heard much about this one, and that might be what PlatinumGames is hinging on currently. Bayonetta 3's development was not great, apparently, it took a long time for it to come out. There were talks that it had some struggles in terms of development, which, yeah, that could have been spurred on by remote work from the pandemic and all kinds of stuff that was thrown into flux then. But it doesn't seem like PlatinumGames is in a very good place right now. So there's no reason for a company to come in and buy them. They don't really control any intellectual properties. It's mostly just talent that can eventually just go off and get hired somewhere else, like we just saw with Hideki Kamiya at Capcom. So yeah, unless they turn things around here with something like Project GG or get some incredible contract to work on a game for someone else, I don't really know what the future looks like for them at this point. And that's unfortunate, because PlatinumGames for a little while there was rolling along with some really, really cool releases, but it's been pretty quiet on that front. So we'll see if they pop up again with Project GG some point in 2025, or if we hear more information about them losing more and more people, and I don't know, eventually, would PlatinumGames close down? I guess it's possible. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, Capcom says they are looking into reviving older game series. Which of these would you like to see get a new game the most? Dino Crisis, number one, 41%. Look at that. You know, I will say with just current technology and can you imagine seeing some of the dinosaurs in RE Engine? That'd be pretty cool to see how that would turn out there. And we have Mega Man Legends, that's 25%, okay. Beautiful Joe at 18%, and the Breath of Fire at 16%. You know, Breath of Fire would, I think, be something a little different for Capcom to attempt. Would they want to do that versus something they might be a bit more familiar with as like a Dino Crisis? That's hard to say, but it may be interesting just to see the art style they'd go with, the setup. They might even try to move it off of just like being more turn-based and then maybe make it more action-oriented. So a lot of possibilities. And that's the exciting thing about Capcom right now. We legitimately don't know what could pop up from them at any moment, especially after this recent show. So that's pretty fun. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Hylian saying the Muppet roasting was peak. Yeah, so this is definitely, I think, the best inclusion of the Muppets, having them up there in the balcony, of course, just sort of roasting the show as it's going on. And I think they're targeting like Kojima and Keighley and whoever else. And they've sort of framed it, the idea of we're going to read tweets online and then take those and be like, yeah, make fun of them with that. And it almost feels like even the people online who are trolling the show have some sort of inclusion with it. Even if they're annoyed at the show or something, it's like, oh wow, cool, we were part of the show. So I don't know, it's kind of fun. And Jeff Keighley did, I will admit, took a lot of that in stride, which I'm sure all of it was greenlit, and he was like, okay, good to go. But, he still stood up there in front of what'll probably be some massive number. They're probably going to throw around somewhat like 80 million, 100 million people watching or something. So in that sense, he got roasted in front of a lot of people, but it did legitimately make the show a bit more fun. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed last week's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe wanted to hear more about the whole situation around the Switch 2 with the accessories and DBRAND, and if they actually have the ability to draw one of these up on current plans, or if they're just sort of trolling everyone, I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.